Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're stepping into a world we usually think of as, well, really comforting and calm.
Lullabies.
Exactly, lullabies. You know those gentle songs sung to help kids drift off? Like the source mentioned that Taiwan chantal chan chow, asking the moon for things. It feels really soft, you know? Peaceful.
Mm-hmm. That's the image, isn't it? Soft, sweet, soothing, creating that safe little bubble for sleep.
Right, but here's the thing that's honestly kind of fascinating and maybe a little chilling from the sources we've looked at. That picture, it's not the whole story.
Not even close in some cases.
Yeah, the material shows this, like, whole other side. Lullabies from different places that are, well, they're not gentle at all. They can be surprisingly dark. Scary, even.
Some are downright horrifying. It just completely flips what you think a lullaby should be.
It really does. So our mission here for this deep dive is to explore some of these specific creepy lullabies, the ones described in the sources from different countries. We want to look at what they're actually about, the threats they contain.
And maybe try to understand why they exist. What do they tell us about the cultures they came from?
So yeah, it's not just about listing scary songs. It's more about digging into the cultural stories, maybe the fears that get woven into these songs for little kids. Let's unpack what the sources show us.
Okay, where should we start? How about Russia? The courses talk about one called Tery bomb.
Tery bomb. Even the name sounds a bit rhythmic but ominous, doesn't it? What's the story there, according to the source?
Well, it paints this picture. There's someone, a figure, outside the window. First, maybe just walking by.
Okay.
But then comes that sound, the Tery bomb part. It's like a knock on the door. And the threat is, well, pretty clear. If the child isn't asleep, he comes in.
He gets inside the house.
Yeah, enters the house. And the lyrics apparently describe him getting closer, maybe hiding, in a dark corner of the room, watching the child.
Ugh, that's properly creepy. The invasion of the safe space.
Exactly. From outside to the door, right into the room itself.
And the source had that story, right? About a kid in Russia who heard it, pretended to sleep.
Yes, pretended to sleep, then peeked, and thought they saw a shadow figure standing right there in the corner.
Gives me chills just thinking about it. And didn't it also mention a Russian friend having a really strong reaction just to hearing the music again?
Yeah, like instant dread. It shows how powerful that combination of melody and imagery can be, how deep it gets embedded.
So the function here, based on what we're seeing in the sources, it's not really soothing, is it? It feels like pure fear motivation.
Seems like it. Using this threat, this watcher, to basically scare the kid into shutting their eyes and sleeping. Fast. Compliance through terror.
Okay, so that's Russia. Let's jump over to Brazil. The source talks about Ninna Nanna.
Right, Ninna Nanna. This one brings in actual monsters. Creatures that apparently come for kids who cry.
Specific ones.
The source mentions a couple of possibilities. Sometimes it's an alligator witch, which sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Or maybe a more general figure called Bicho Papão.
Bicho Papão. That sounds a bit like a boogeyman type figure.
Yeah, very much like a regional version of the boogeyman. That seems to be a common theme we might see.
And the source mentions something specific about the situation in the lyrics, too, about the parents.
It does. The lyrics apparently say, dad's gone to the field, mom's gone to the kitchen.
So the child is alone.
Essentially, yeah. It implies they're unprotected at that moment. The usual guardians are busy, absent, which of course makes the monster threat way more intense.
Makes sense. And the lyrics themselves, what do they say? Are they subtle?
Not really. The source says they're quite direct, like, stop crying, basically shut up, or this kuka, or the Bicho Papão, is going to come down from the roof.
From the roof. Another invasion.
Right. From above this time, coming to get the child who's upset, frowning, crying.
So again, it's directly targeting a behavior crying with a threat. A monster that shows up when you're vulnerable because your parents aren't right there. Fear linked to showing emotion almost.
Seems that way. Okay, so moving on from Brazil, maybe into the Spanish-speaking world, the sources bring up Duérmete, Niño.
Ah, yeah, that one sounds familiar. It's pretty widespread, right? Spain, Latin America.
Very common. And it features probably the most classic figure we'll discuss, the Coco.
The Coco, like the boogeyman again.
Pretty much. The source mentions it can sometimes be called kuka, maybe linking back to Brazil, or even seen as a wolf in some places, but the core idea is the same.
And the threat is?
Super simple, super blunt. Sleep now, sleep now. If you don't, Coco will come and take you away.
Take you away. Okay, scary enough.
But wait, the source adds that some versions get even darker. They say Coco will actually eat people, like entirely.
Eat them. Wow. Okay, that ramps it up from kidnapping to something much more primal.
Definitely. Being taken away is one thing, but being eaten, that hits a different level of fear.
What does its widespread use tell us, do you think?
Well, it really highlights how universal that boogeyman archetype is, you know.
Yeah.
This vague, lurking threat that punishes kids for not sleeping. The fact that it's so common across Spanish-speaking cultures suggests it's a really embedded way to enforce bedtime. Simple, potent threat. Sleep, or this thing gets you.
That vague threat seems common. But the next one, from Haiti, the source says it's much more specific. Doudou tea.
Yeah, Doudou tea. And the monster here is, well, it's memorable. According to the source, it's a demon that looks like a crab.
A crab? Seriously?
A crab. It's the specificity that's kind of startling, isn't it?
Totally. So the threat is...
If you don't sleep, the crab will eat you.
Yeah.
And the source notes that line gets repeated.
Okay, so being eaten again, but by a crab demon. And is there the parent thing again?
Yes, just like the Brazilian one. Lyrics mention your mother is not here, your father's not here, they went to the river. Reinforces that isolation again.
So the source asks the question, right? Why a crab? What makes a crab so terrifying in Haiti that it ends up in a lullaby?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where this one offers maybe a different angle. It's not a generic boogeyman. Choosing a crab, it feels like it must be rooted in something local, you know,
Yeah.
specific folklore. Maybe something about coastal life, maybe some myth about crab-like creatures.
So it suggests that these lullabies can tap into really specific localized fears,
Yeah.
making the threat maybe feel more real, more tangible within that particular place.
Could be fear grounded in the specifics of their world, rather than just a vague monster.
Fascinating. Okay, from Haiti, let's shift to Italy. The sources describe Ninna Nanna as having a really unique and frankly pretty disturbing twist.
Oh yeah, this one changes the dynamic quite a bit. Most of the others, the monster comes for the child, right? From outside somewhere.
Right.
But in this Italian one, the source points out it's the mother who decides who she's going to give the child to if they don't sleep.
Wait, the mother gives the child away.
That's what the source says. She's not the protector from the monster. She's potentially the one handing the child over.
Whoa, okay, that's heavy. Who are the potential recipients?
It's quite a menu, according to the source.
Shit.
There's an old witch. She keeps the child for a week. There's the boogeyman. He gets the child for a year. Or a wolf. And the wolf keeps the child forever.
A week, a year, forever. That escalation is just, wow. Horrifying. The message there is just brutally clear, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fail to sleep. And it's not just some monster from outside. It's your own parent potentially abandoning you, handing you over to something awful.
That shifts the fear entirely. It's not about the dark outside. It's about the core relationship, the source of safety.
Exactly. It's deeply psychological. The source implies the effect is probably instant sleep, out of sheer terror of being given away by the person you trust most. Fear rooted in potential betrayal by the ultimate authority figure. Offers a really different window into cultural dynamics, I think.
Definitely. Okay, one more stop on this unsettling tour. Our sources take us to Indonesia, Java specifically, for Lelo Ledhung.
Right. Ledhung. This one uses celestial imagery, which is interesting. The main threat described as a scary giant. Or maybe just the giant's head.
A giant's head.
On the full moon, watching the crying children from up there.
The moon itself is the watcher. That's quite an image. What did the lyrics actually say? Is it just the threat?
Well, it starts that way. Telling the child, you know, please be quiet, don't cry. But then, according to the source, it kind of shifts gears.
How so?
It starts offering encouragement, urging the child to have a beautiful face, live honorably, bring honor to parents, even grow up to be a warrior for the country.
Huh. So it's not just fear. There's this positive aspiration mixed in.
Exactly. That's the duality here that's interesting. It has these hopes for the child's future, these positive cultural values.
There's always a but.
Right.
Yeah.
The threat is still there. If they keep crying despite the encouragement, then the giant on the moon will come down and snatch them. The source even mentions how the full moon itself is seen as looking like the giant's head, watching.
So it blends positive goals with this inescapable, watchful threat. The giant isn't just punishing crying, maybe it's enforcing this whole package of behavior, quietness, honor, ambition.
Yeah, it seems like fear is being used not just for the immediate goal, stop crying, go to sleep, but it's tied into broader cultural expectations and hopes for the child. Fear connected to living up to societal ideals.
Okay, so if we pull back now and look at all these examples the sources gave us, What patterns jump out?
Well, sticking just to what's in the material, the big common thread is definitely using fear. Fear to make kids sleep or stop crying. That seems undeniable.
And the types of smuts are varied, but recurring themes are there. Monsters, definitely. Whether it's a generic bogeyman or Coco.
Or something specific like the alligator witch or that Haitian crab, or even just a vague shadow figure like in Russia, or the moon giant.
Yeah, a whole gallery of scary figures. And the threats themselves, being taken away, being eaten, being caught, physical danger.
And the context often matters too, right? The parents being absent, increasing the vulnerability, or like in the Italian case, the parent becoming the source of the threat itself.
It's just such a stark contrast to that initial idea we had, the gentle, soothing lullaby.
Totally. It shows lullabies can be these containers for, well, much darker cultural stuff. Fears, anxieties, maybe even methods of control.
And the sources really highlight the diversity in how cultures express those fears. Some use universal bogeymen, others very local creatures.
And some turn the fear inward, focusing on the parent-child relationship itself. It's complex.
This whole exploration, just based on the sources we had, paints a picture of lullabies that's way more unsettling, frankly, than I think most of us probably imagine.
Yeah, it's been a dive into some pretty shadowy corners of folklore, hasn't it? All wrapped up in songs for babies.
It really makes you think, even in something seemingly so simple, so universal, like a song to help a child sleep.
You find these deep layers of cultural history, specific fears, and complicated human dynamics just embedded right there in the melody and words.
So maybe a final thought to leave you, our listener, with something to chew on after this.
How might the specific monsters, the particular threats, the stories we hear when we're really young, even in songs, how might they subtly shape how we fundamentally understand things like safety or authority, or even just what fear is?
Definitely something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unexpectedly dark world of international lullabies.